We're talking about a development that's raising raised eyebrows across the country. The suggestion of a hidden plot involving Justice James Omotosho and Nnamdi Kanu, leader of indigenous people of Biafra. That Justice Omotosho is allegedly being positioned to hand down a death sentence in Kanu's trial. Now, let me be clear. As I track the story, there is no publicly confirmed sentence of death yet, nor has the court publicly declared such a plotting scheme with full evidence. But what we do have are signs, accusations, and legal maneuvers that certainly point to something deeply unsettling. Here's what's going on so far. Kanu's trial has been moving in fits and starts. There's a very real question about jurisdiction, whether the case was properly brought, given the circumstances of his arrest, his rendition, and other technicalities. For instance, a recent article noted that Kanu's defense team insists the case file has not been handed over to him properly, which stalled proceedings. Also, ironically, his defense refused to open on a claim that there is no extant law to underpin the charges. On the other side, the rights groups and Kanu's camp are saying that the state has gone beyond just charging him. They allege the government hired a witness at the last minute in his case. Someone who is not part of the security service but is now acting as such, and that this constitutes prosecutorial misconduct. So where does Justice Omotosho come in? He is the judge currently presiding over the case in the Federal High Court Abuja. Kanu's previous judge recused herself after claims of bias. Now, people are asking, given all these legal tangles, what if the case is being steered in one direction, a direction that ends in the harshest possible outcome, i.e., death sentence, rather than a fair process? Why do many believe this might be the case? A few reasons. 1. There's a broader context of national security, terrorism laws, and how they're applied in Nigeria. The charges against Kanu are serious: treasonable felony, broadcasting to incite violence, etc. When cases under terrorism laws are tried, people fear the scale and severity of penalties. 2. The defense's claims of irregularity, that files haven't been handed over, that the judge may be dealing with a flawed foundation, raise alarm bells. If defense rights are undermined, the fear is the outcome may not be just. 3. The public sentiment and protest around this trial mean that any strong outcome will reverberate politically, socially, and regionally. If a death sentence is handed down, it wouldn't just be about one man. It would carry huge consequences for trust in the judiciary, for ethnic relations, given Kanu's Igbo background and Eastern Nigeria base, and for how the state deals with dissent. Now, I want you to imagine what this means in practice. If you were Kanu's lawyer, what would you demand? Full access to files, time to prepare, impartial judge, that the charges are based on law rather than political speculation. The defense is asking precisely that. Meanwhile, the prosecution appears to be pushing for an accelerated timeline. For example, we know an article flagged that the judge gave Kanu till October 27th to open his defense, while Kanu claimed his files weren't handed to him in time. Given all this, you can see why many people across Nigeria are watching this trial with suspicion. Is it justice being served or justice being used for an end? The headline that there is a hidden plot to sentence Nnamdi Kanu to death isn't confirmed in full, but the ingredients for something of that scale are present. Heavy charges, contested trial process, a judge under pressure, a defense feeling shortchanged. Let's talk about possible consequences, because this matters for all Nigerians, not just the parties involved. First, if the court does hand down a death sentence, and if it's seen as politically motivated, it could spark protests or unrest, especially in the southeast where Kanu has a strong base. Second, it sets a precedent, how the state treats separatist or dissent voices. Does due process matter, or is outcome predetermined? That matters for democracy, for rule of law. Third, international reaction. There are human rights watchers monitoring this. case has attracted attention beyond our borders. If the trial is flawed, the legitimacy of Nigeria's judiciary could suffer. Now, a few questions for you, the viewer, to think about. And please leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'll discuss them next time. Do you believe the trial is fair and above board? Should the state pursue the death penalty in this case if the offenses are proven? What message does this trial send to other Nigerians who believe in regional self-determination or are critical of the government? And as a reminder, if you like this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you're notified when we go deeper. We have more updates coming on this story. Now, the story around Nnamdi Kanu has always been more than a courtroom drama. It's about identity, politics, justice, and power. Kanu, as we all know, is not just any accused person. He is the leader of IPOB, a movement that has become a symbol of resistance for many people in the Southeast. Some see him as a freedom fighter. Others see him as a man who went too far with his rhetoric. But no matter what side you're on, one thing everyone agrees on is that his case has exposed the deep cracks in Nigeria's justice and political systems. Now let's talk about Justice James Omotosho himself. People have been digging into his past rulings, and you'll notice he's been handling some politically sensitive cases lately. Cases involving protests, government actions, and civil rights. Some Nigerians online are asking whether that's why he was given Kanu's case, because he's seen as someone who won't easily bow to public pressure. But others fear that the very same reason could make him appear as if he's leaning toward the government. It's a very delicate balance. And that's where this hidden plot conversation gets serious. Some people believe there's an internal push within the system to use the law as a weapon, to silence dissent. To make an example out of Kanu, they argue that what's happening now could happen to anyone tomorrow if unchecked. Others, especially government supporters, insist that Kanu crossed a legal line and that the law must take its course no matter who it offends. Now, let's look at the current status. As of the latest court sessions, Kanu's lawyers have been insisting on proper access to case materials. They want transparency. They want to follow due process. The prosecution, on the other hand, says the delay is part of a strategy to stall justice. You see the tension? One side says, we're being denied fairness. The other says, you're wasting time. But behind all this courtroom drama, Nigerians are asking a deeper question. Is this trial still about justice, or is it about politics? Because if it's about justice, then every citizen, whether you agree with Kanu or not, should care that the process is fair. But if it's about politics, then we're all in trouble, because that means the court can be used as a tool for control. Now, let's bring this closer to home. Think about what's happening in the Southeast today. Many towns are still struggling with insecurity, sit-at-home orders, economic disruption, and fear. IPOB has said several times that they no longer support the Monday sit-at-home, but many people are still afraid to go out. The tension is still there. So if anything happens to Kanu, especially if it's seen as unfair, that tension could explode again. And this is what people are worried about. Not just a court verdict, but the aftershock it could bring. Because when you have years of frustration, unemployment, and regional anger all boiling underneath, it doesn't take much to ignite it. Now let's talk about the legal side again. Some legal analysts are saying that even if the court finds Kanu guilty, a death sentence might be difficult to justify because the current charges mostly tied to broadcasting secessionist statements and alleged incitement are not capital offenses under Nigerian law unless directly linked to murder or terrorism acts that cause deaths. So if there's truly a plot to sentence him to death, that would raise serious legal and constitutional questions. But in Nigeria, we have seen strange outcomes before. Outcomes that don't always follow the clear line of the law. That's why people are nervous, because sometimes what's possible on paper isn't what happens in practice. At this point, Nigerians are divided into three groups when it comes to Kanu's case. Those who want him released unconditionally, saying his arrest and rendition from Kenya were illegal. Those who want him punished, claiming he endangered national security. Those who just want peace, saying, let the government and IPOB find a political solution instead of a courtroom war. And honestly, that third group is growing fast. Even some respected traditional rulers, religious leaders, and lawmakers have called for dialogue, not judgment. They're saying this matter has gone beyond one man. It's now about peace and unity. Now, let me remind you again, if you're enjoying this breakdown, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who follows this story. We need more people to understand what's truly going on beyond the headlines. Let's not forget, there's also an international angle here. Groups like Amnesty International and other human rights bodies are watching this case closely. They've already expressed concern about Kanu's detention conditions and fair trial rights. If the Nigerian court delivers any harsh sentence, especially one as extreme as death, it could trigger international pressure and diplomatic tension. Remember how the global community reacted to similar cases in other African countries? Sanctions, travel bans, and public condemnations. Nigeria cannot afford that right now, especially with our current economic struggles and image concerns. Now, one interesting twist. Some observers believe the hidden plot headline itself might be part of a wider strategy to influence public opinion. They argue that by pushing the narrative of a death sentence plot, Kanu's supporters are trying to put pressure on the judge and the government to make them more cautious in their actions. It's a kind of preemptive move, shaping the story before the verdict. Smart, right? Because once people believe the system is rigged, any judgment against Kanu will automatically be seen as proof of conspiracy. But then again, in a country like Nigeria, where distrust in government is already very high, it's not surprising that such theories gain traction so easily. Now let's talk solutions. What's the best way forward? Honestly, the answer lies in fairness and transparency. The federal government should allow a truly open trial. No secret witnesses, no last-minute documents, no biased rulings. And the court should resist any political pressure. At the same time, Kanu's supporters need to remain peaceful and avoid statements that could worsen the situation. Because if there's violence, it only gives the state more reason to act harshly. Let's face it, Nigerians are tired. People want peace. They want justice that can be trusted. Whether you support IPOB or not, everyone wants a country where the law is the same for both the rich and poor, government or opposition. So as this trial continues, we'll be watching closely. Will Justice Omotosho show full independence? Will Kanu finally get his full defense? Or will this case end as another example of politics dressed in legal robes? We'll keep following it here. So again, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's really a hidden plot behind all this? Or do you think it's just political noise to sway public sympathy?